There's a truth about love that most people never learn until they've been broken by it. Men don't fall in love with you because you're beautiful, successful, or kind. They don't fall in love because you're always there for them, or because you love them more than anyone ever has. Those things might attract them, but they don't anchor their hearts. A man can admire your looks, enjoy your company, appreciate your loyalty, and still not fall in love. That's the painful reality so many women face. You can give your all, do everything right, and still end up feeling unseen, wondering what you're missing. But the truth isn't that you're not enough. It's that men only fall in love for two reasons. And until you understand those reasons, you'll keep confusing attention for affection and effort for emotional investment. The modern world has overcomplicated relationships. We've built checklists, roles, and rules around love, but real connection has always been simpler, deeper, more primal. Men, despite their outward logic, are emotional creatures, but they fall in love differently than women do. Women often connect through nurturing, empathy, and shared emotion. Men fall through impact, through a sense of inspiration and purpose that you awaken within them. You don't have to be the most stunning woman in the room, but you do have to be unforgettable in the ways that reach past his surface. The kind of woman he falls for doesn't chase, doesn't convince, and doesn't compete. She simply embodies something that touches him on a level beyond words. That's where these two reasons come in. These are not tricks, manipulation tactics, or love games. They are emotional truths, timeless principles rooted in psychology, energy, and human nature. If you understand them, you'll stop trying to perform for love and start allowing it to flow toward you naturally. Because love, especially masculine love, isn't earned by doing more. It's sparked by being more of who you are, in a way that awakens his masculine nature to meet yours. Before we explore those two reasons, we need to clear something up. What makes a man truly fall in love is not the same thing that makes him stay interested. Interest is surface level. It's the dopamine rush when he first sees you, the thrill of your presence, the novelty of the chase. But love, real love, happens when a man feels something about himself, when he's with you that he doesn't feel with anyone else. You become a mirror that reflects his best self back to him, not by feeding his ego, but by evoking his higher nature. That's where attraction deepens into devotion. And here's the paradox. You can't make a man fall in love, but you can become the kind of woman who effortlessly activates the two forces that draw him in on a soul-deep level. Most relationships fail not because love dies, but because connection was never built on these two foundations to begin with. Without them, love becomes conditional, shallow, and easily replaced. With them, it becomes magnetic, inevitable, and nearly unbreakable. The first reason men fall in love is emotional safety, but not in the way most women think. Emotional safety isn't about babying him, tolerating everything, or being endlessly understanding. It's about being the kind of woman whose presence makes him feel grounded, seen, and accepted without judgment. The woman who doesn't make him feel like he has to perform to be loved. When a man feels emotionally safe, he relaxes into his authentic self, and that's where love begins. But that's something we'll get into deeply in the body section, because emotional safety is not built by what you give him. It's built by the energy you hold within yourself. The second reason, and the deeper one, is inspiration. A man falls in love when he feels inspired by you, when your presence challenges him to rise without you having to demand it, when your energy calls him into his purpose, his power, his integrity. This is not about manipulation or playing hard to get. It's about embodying a kind of feminine strength and mystery that makes him want to show up fully, not because he has to, but because he chooses to. Men fall for women who awaken their higher potential, who make them feel like being with them is an elevation, not an escape. But before we dive into those two truths in detail, let's be honest, most women have been conditioned to do the opposite. You've been taught that love comes from giving, from proving, from overextending. You've been told that if you're good enough, loyal enough, patient enough, he'll realize your worth. So you nurture, you fix, you sacrifice, and in the process you start losing your spark, your mystery, your balance. You become the caregiver instead of the muse, the comfort zone instead of the catalyst. And then you wonder why he pulls away even though you did everything right. The painful truth is, love cannot grow where there is no polarity. Masculine and feminine energy must dance, not merge into sameness. A man doesn't fall in love with a woman who becomes his reflection. He falls in love with a woman who awakens contrast. Someone who feels like both home and adventure. Someone who challenges him without trying to control him. Who brings peace but also passion. That's the secret combination. And both emotional safety and inspiration are rooted in that dynamic. They balance each other. One grounds him, the other elevates him. Without both, love collapses. If you look back on every man you've known, you'll probably see the pattern. The ones who desired you intensely but faded away, they were attracted, not anchored. The ones who felt comfortable but uninspired, they stayed but the spark died. And the rare ones who couldn't let go, even if they tried, they fell in love because you embodied both sides of that duality. You made them feel safe in their vulnerability and alive in their masculinity. That's the combination that etches a woman into a man's soul. But here's the key. You can't fake either of those qualities. You can't act emotionally safe if you're secretly anxious, controlling, or resentful. And you can't inspire a man if you're constantly abandoning yourself to keep him. The feminine power that creates love doesn't come from performance. It comes from embodiment. From knowing your worth so deeply that you no longer need to prove it. From radiating a self-assured energy that makes him feel both challenged and cherished in your presence. That's the energy men can't walk away from, even if they try. And the irony? The moment you stop chasing love is the moment you start attracting it. Because high-value feminine energy doesn't beg for connection. It creates it by being. You become the calm in his chaos, the softness in his storms, and the fire that keeps him striving for more. You become the reflection of his highest potential. And that's what his soul craves, not perfection, but presence. So as we move into the body of this message, we'll break down these two reasons, emotional safety and inspiration, not as theories, but as living energies you can embody. We'll explore what they look like in real interactions, how men subconsciously respond to them, and how you can shift from chasing love to effortlessly drawing it toward you. Because once you understand why men truly fall in love, you'll stop wondering what you're doing wrong, and start realizing that love has always been drawn to your authentic power, waiting for you to step fully into it. You'll see that the game was never about being enough. It was about remembering that you already are. And when a man meets a woman who knows that truth, who doesn't seek validation but radiates self-assurance, he can't help but fall. Not because she needs him, but because her presence reminds him of what he's been missing all along. That is the essence of real love. Not possession, but connection. Not chasing, but resonance. And those two reasons, they're the keys that unlock it all. The first reason men fall in love truly, deeply, unshakably, is emotional safety. This doesn't mean babying him, never challenging him or letting him get away with bad behavior. It means being the kind of woman whose presence feels like exhale after a storm. The kind of woman who doesn't need to perform, pretend, or pressure. Men live in a world where they're expected to always be strong, to lead, to fix, to perform, yet they rarely feel safe enough to be seen. So when he meets a woman who allows him to drop his guard, to be real, to be imperfect, that's where his heart begins to open. Emotional safety is when a man feels accepted without having to earn it. But here's the nuance. Emotional safety isn't built by giving him all your energy. It's created by regulating your own. A woman who's grounded, emotionally stable, and self-assured radiates peace. Her energy says, you can breathe here. She doesn't spiral when things feel uncertain. She doesn't demand constant validation or chase reassurance. She knows how to hold space for herself, and because of that, she can hold space for him. That's what men fall for. The woman who doesn't lose herself in emotion, but instead embodies calm, compassion, and strength in equal measure. Most women think being emotionally safe means never disagreeing, always understanding, always being kind. But true safety comes from emotional maturity. It's knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when to step back. It's not about tolerating disrespect. It's about communicating boundaries without chaos. It's about saying, I care about you, but I won't abandon myself to keep you. That balance makes a man feel grounded, because it shows him he can trust your energy. He knows you won't weaponize your emotions against him, nor will you lose control when things get tough. And here's what few women realize. Men crave emotional safety more than they crave beauty or passion. Beauty attracts him, passion excites him, but safety keeps him. Because when a man feels emotionally safe, he can open the parts of himself he hides from the world. His fears, his dreams, his pain, his truth. That's the sacred space where love grows. The woman who can meet him there, without judgment, without chaos, without agenda, becomes unforgettable. She becomes home. But you can't create that space if you're constantly operating from fear. Fear of losing him, fear of not being enough, fear of rejection. That energy repels safety. It feels heavy, unpredictable, and draining. When you start trusting yourself more than you fear losing him, that's when the dynamic shifts. You no longer seek control. You create calm. You no longer chase reassurance. You become reassurance. And that subtle energetic shift changes everything. A high-value woman doesn't chase peace from others. She becomes it. She doesn't absorb his moods. She anchors hers. That's the kind of energy a man will fight to protect, because it's rare. Every man, no matter how tough, longs for a woman whose presence feels like rest to his soul. When you become that, not by effort but by embodiment, he'll fall in love before he even realizes why. The second reason men fall in love, the one that ignites devotion, passion and lifelong commitment, is inspiration. If emotional safety makes him feel at peace, inspiration makes him feel alive. It's the spark that transforms admiration into obsession. A man can feel safe with many women, but he only falls for the one who inspires him to rise higher. This kind of woman doesn't just comfort his soul, she challenges it. Not through criticism or demands, but through presence, confidence, and authenticity. Inspiration isn't about fixing him or motivating him with words. It's about living your truth so powerfully that it awakens something dormant in him. When he sees you pursuing your goals, standing by your values, refusing to settle, it sparks his drive. Your energy becomes a mirror reflecting back to him what he's capable of. You don't tell him to be better. He wants to be better because of you. That's the difference between a relationship that drains him and one that drives him. But inspiration doesn't come from perfection. It comes from alignment. A woman who knows who she is, who doesn't lose herself for love, who sets boundaries with grace, who walks with quiet confidence, automatically commands respect. Men fall in love with women who embody both softness and strength, grace and grit, warmth and independence. That paradox is magnetic. It creates polarity, the energetic dance between the masculine and feminine that keeps attraction alive. A woman who inspires doesn't chase. She attracts. She doesn't beg for effort. She evokes it. She doesn't force connection. She allows it to flow. Her confidence isn't arrogance. It's self-awareness. She knows her worth, so she doesn't compete or compare. That energy makes a man want to protect her, cherish her, and rise to her level. She makes him feel like being with her is not an escape from life. It's an elevation of it. Men fall for the woman who makes them want to show up as better men. And that inspiration is born from your authenticity. When you stand firm in your truth, when you refuse to play small, when you love yourself enough to never beg for love, that's when you become unforgettable. You become the rare kind of woman who is not a chapter in his story, but the turning point. When you combine these two forces, emotional safety and inspiration, you become the kind of woman who doesn't just capture a man's heart, but holds it. Safety roots him. Inspiration lifts him. One without the other creates imbalance. If you're only safe, he'll feel comfortable but not captivated. If you're only inspiring, he'll feel excited but unstable. But when your energy embodies both peace and passion, softness and strength, that's when he can't walk away. The irony is that these two traits don't come from focusing on him, they come from focusing on you. You can't make a man feel safe if you're not at peace with yourself. You can't inspire him if you've abandoned your own dreams. Love that lasts doesn't come from trying to fit his ideal. It comes from being fully expressed in yours. So stop trying to be the woman who does everything right. Be the woman who feels right. The one whose energy says, I don't need to be chosen, I am the choice. That shift changes everything. Because men don't fall in love with effort. They fall in love with energy. They fall in love with how you make them feel about themselves in your presence. Be the calm he never knew he needed, and the fire he never knew existed. Be the woman who makes him feel seen in his softness and challenged in his strength. When you embody that balance, you won't need to chase love. Love will find you, recognize you, and never want to let you go. And that's the secret most people never tell you. Men fall in love for only two reasons, because they feel safe enough to be real and inspired enough to grow. Every other spark fades, but when you give a man peace and purpose without losing yourself in the process, He doesn't just love you. He commits to you with his soul. Because you are no longer just a woman in his life. You become the woman who changed it.